to the class with a very empathetic approach. And if you keep this empathy in your mind, you'll be able to understand it better. Today, it's all about empathizing with the nature, which we had neglected so long. So we need to empathize with people around us. We need to empathize with nature around us. And we need to work towards them, just not empathizing, but also working towards them. We all are together on this earth. And we need to give everybody the space to live on this earth. Right. So just 2 or more minutes and then I'll start with the class. I'm sure all of you are renaming yourselves in the order of your name, admission number, class, and section. And remember to switch off your audios and videos. Well, children, we'll start with the lesson, and I'm sure the class is ready now with your books and notebooks here. Keep jotting down the points, children, as I keep saying. Remember how to do the note making, and that is going to help you to jot down all the points. Well, first of all, as you know, we always start with a quote. So my quote today for all of you is that today, especially, the weather outside is also really very wonderful. And I would love to go out, but remember, we cannot because of the lockdown. We need to be within our homes and enjoy the weather from our balconies. The quote says here by a famous American author, Henry David Thoreau. He says, I took a walk in the woods and came out taller than the trees. How could one grow? If I speak about its meaning, the literal meaning about taller, here taller is not about in height. Here taller is in growth emotionally, and being able to grow in knowledge, because the nature has got plentiful, children, plentiful to give to us, and we have lots to learn from the nature. You have read this word taller even in your lesson, the last lesson, when M. Hamel says he stands there upright and he appeared to be taller that day. So that is his appearance, he grew in people's perspective. He grew in stature, in knowledge. He appeared to be, in experience, he appeared to be much larger than his physical appearance. So nature may appear to be dumb to us, but nature has ways to tell us, the ways to speak to us, right? And if people can read the nature, we are connected to the supreme power. So if you take a walk in the woods, if you take a walk in the park, you don't need to go to a wood. You can also go to a park nearby. At present, with all the following the rules and regulations, take a walk and you'll be able to see how much you feel at peace and how much you will learn and come back home. That is the experience of going to the nature and learning and coming back. Okay. I wanted you to show these pictures to you. What do you think these pictures are of? Any guesses? Of course, you cannot tell me, because I've already mentioned there, these are all scenes from an Indian village. I specifically wrote here Indian, though my poem is not related to an Indian setting, but it is a universal theme. So I said we should be able to connect to an Indian village. So I posted these pictures of the Indian villages. See, all these pictures, this speaks about the poverty of our people in the villages, living in the villages. This speaks about how the animals and human beings living together, but the animals and the human beings are serving each other, right? Whatever they get, they are also giving back in return by serving them. How hard these people in the villages work on the fields. That is the reason the grains which we receive on our plate today is because of their toil, of their hard work, right? And the joy which it gives, the green pastures, it gives us so much of a good feeling when we see the green fields. How much they toil, the ladies, they toil in the while growing the rice and other crops, how much they toil. And this is the houses, there are wide spaces in the villages for everybody to enjoy the open spaces, right? And a beautiful scenic scene of the villages. Yes, so this is what is the real beautiful picture. But behind this beautiful picture, there is also a very sad thought, and that is how we have neglected our villages, how we have neglected our villages, how we don't bother to think about them. On the contrary, I'll show you another picture, children. What is this? Urban India, right? See the way we have flooded our cities and our towns with concrete jungles and cars and vehicles and all that. What kind of houses we have here? They're so close to each other. We get any fresh air to breathe. There's no greenery here. It's completely lacking here, right? We only find hordes and hordes of people, hordes and hordes and fleets of cars and concrete jungle. So I just tell you, for you yourself, you decide now, children, which will be a better life. Is this concrete jungle a better life, or the place where you are able to breathe freely, the place where you are able to enjoy the nature is beautiful. Today, when we are locked inside our homes and we have all the materialistic things with us, all the luxuries with us, we want to go out and enjoy the nature, right? And the people who have been protecting this nature, villagers, the city dwellers, the village folks, we do not think about their life. We do not in any way consider to uplift them. This is the saddest part. I'm reminded of the famous lines, man may come and man may go, but I go on forever. The nature goes on forever, right? These concrete jungles may one day get completely devastated, but nature will always remain, right? So I am actually really, I love nature, and I love to be in the greenery. A walk in the garden, a walk in a park gives so much of happiness and a positive feeling. That's the reason I love to do a lot of gardening also. Though I do not have much of a space, but whatever I have, I try to do plant new trees, new plants in my pots, and every day take care of it. This is what I can only give back to the nature, to take care of those plants, so small in number it may be, but this is how I feel so happy. Let's see, what else I have for you. Remember, God made the country and man made the town. Man has made the towns, and you can see the condition, how haphazardly we have made the towns, however much the town planning must have been, however good the administrators may have planned the cities, but yet they are overcrowded. We don't get a breather there. We don't get time to enjoy the greenery. But see the countryside, there is so much of the sun for all of us to enjoy, right? We don't have to come out of our balconies, come out on the roads to take a look at the sun. We can sit in our homes and enjoy the sun, a cloudy day. We can enjoy the greenery around us. Yes, because this is made by God. And what has man done? Man has made towns which are overcrowded, cities which are overcrowded, right? I'm sure you are able to understand where we are heading to. Well, now you must be wondering how we have economics in our English class. Yes, but yes, children, we need to understand that what is the glimpse of a rural India. And this is a picture all over the world, of the villagers. Maybe there is a slight difference in numbers, but this is majority of what is this the same. If we talk about the population dynamics today, I'm going to discuss only with you in India. if you see the population dynamics, children, most of our rural population, which is in blue, which I'm showing you here, is comprises of the rural population. You can see the number is so huge which live in the villages, and our urban population is a small, which are confined only to the cities, and that is the reasons our cities are so very dense. But why today these villagers are moving towards the cities? Because we have forgotten to give them employment, we have forgotten to take care of them, we have forgotten to see that the resources from where we are by which we are surviving is through them, and we need to take care of these rural people. We have forgotten this, right? And that is the reason they are in a pathetic condition and they have moved to the cities now, right? But remember, India's heart lies in the villages. If we talk about the rural statistics about in respect to their monthly income, you know, a person living in a rural area, 74, this is though a little, not a very, very recent statistics, but the last one which was conducted, so which shows that the monthly income of a person living in the rural areas is only a meager 5,000 rupees, and that I'm sure is just your pocket money which you get, right? Think about these people, how they survive, they educate their children, and there's no question of a lifestyle for them, no question of a lifestyle. So this meager is just to help them to survive. That is only the question of survival. If I talk about the land which they own, some of them do not have their land. They have to, grow crops on somebody else's land, and they do not have their own homes. Talking about the casual labor, talking about I hope all of you can hear me. Yes. Okay. This is about the casual labor. If I say, what is this casual labor? Only 50% of our, labor is actually a skilled labor. So whatever rest of the labor is there, that is, they are just trying a hit and trial method, and they learn. We don't get a very refined and a skilled labor. So definitely their income is also not very good. If we talk about their basic services, their access to the basic services, you will find that they only 90, the urban 93% of them have the electricity, and only 55, or maybe a number may have increased marginally, but they have the access to electricity. Talking about the toilets and washrooms, washroom is a very big name to give them. They have those small toilets there, and that is only 17% the population of the rural areas who have an access to a toilet. Now, children, as the Prime Minister had started a campaign of had built toilets all over the country, but the number is still not very huge. And talking about the improved source of drinking water, yes, there has been a better facility in this particular area. They have been able to get water, but still there is a gap there. And talking about kacha houses, not a pakka house, you'll find the kacha houses are 19.1%. Yes, and this is not very surprising, children, because we have never ever thought about our rural India. Our rural India is far behind the urban India in every indicator. Talk about education, talk about population, talk about industrial growth, whichever field, they are way back. Today, even after almost 7 decades of independence, the existing policy dynamics has taken a toll on rural India. The villagers have taken a backseat in almost every aspect of socio-economic analysis. And we have created a big gulf. We have created a wide gap, an economy of rich cities and poor villages. This is how our economy is growing. Our urban areas are surging and our rural areas are decaying. And this is not the right way to grow in a country. I mean, growth should be uniform between the rural and the urban. Even if it's not at par, at least there should be a better status there. Because children, it is only because we forget to understand that if our rural India is good, then we will prosper in our cities. Our cities will be better. Today, our cities are overcrowded because the rural people have started migrated to the cities. So my lesson is all about the rural India, the concern of the poet uh, for these rural people, for these farmers. In our country also the situation is one and the same here, though he's talking about England here, but sorry, America there, yet you will find that the condition of the farmers almost is one and the same everywhere. Rather, in India it is more deploring. Moving to the next slide, I want you to take out your notebooks and pens and answer these questions. Honestly, ask yourself, where do you stop on your way when you go on a road trip? Where do you stop? Write down, pen down. Where do you stop? Whichever road trip you go to, where do you stop? Pen it down, children. I want you, because when you pen down your thoughts, only then you start realizing, and then it starts sinking. And then ask yourself, why do you stop? Why do you stop? I'll answer your first question for you. Your first question said, where do you stop on your way when you go on a road trip? You stop at places like Haldiram, Haveli, yes, and whatnot. Those big hotels, those big restaurants which appeal to you, and you do not want to go to any other place. And you look on you search on the net, which is the most popular one. And when you go on these road trips, you want to go and enjoy the nature. You want to go into the nature and enjoy, but you don't want to enjoy the real things of the nature in its natural way. And why do you stop? To buy certain things, to eat something. And you don't believe that the people who are selling out things out there, they can give you something hygienic. Yes, remember, people who are living out there are more hygienic, more healthy than you. Do you look at the roadside stands? The people who have put up their, stalls outside on the road for us, for our convenience, that we don't even have to walk inside and go to the village. They put it on the roads. Do you ever buy anything from them, children? No. Your answers, I'm sure, are a no. Why? Because you feel that these people are below your dignity. You don't consider them at par. You think they are illiterate, and you think that, I shouldn't be saying you, even I'm also a part of it. So I would say we also consider ourselves, to be much higher, much superior than them. So this is what, keeping these questions in your mind, we will read the poem. A Roadside Stand by Robert Frost. Robert Frost is not a new name to all of you. You have read a number of poems written by Robert Frost. Well, before we deal with the poem, we must know what is going on in the poet's mind and who the poet is and what is his way of writing. Well, Robert Frost was born in 1874 until 1963. He was alive. He was a farmer poet. Why a farmer poet? Because by profession, he was a farmer. Initially, he dabbled between farming and as a school teacher, right? He attended Harvard, but he left without a degree, and he became a jack of all trades. By 1920s, he was the most celebrated American poet, a farmer poet. He very soon realized that his calling, the real calling for him was to be a poet, and it must have been really very gratifying for him, towards the end of his career, to know that he was one of the most prolific, most loved, and most significant of the poets in the American history. What more can a poet ask for, and that too towards his fag end of his career? When he's dabbling between the career of a teacher and a farmer, he turned out to be a great poet because he ran after his passion. Well, as he went about his farming task, his poetic sensibilities, which is what I've explained to you, would surface, and he would question the cold detachment of man from nature, because he was a man who was bonded with the earth, he was bonded with the soil, he was bonded with the nature. And that is the reason that he could understand the cold detachment of man from nature, how we are totally disregarding the nature, we don't care, how we are deforesting our natures, how we are not taking care of our forests. This is something which he deeply felt. And as a farmer, he stands with the world and his fellow men to understand them. And then as a poet, he withdraws into himself to attain higher forms of understanding. And that is by writing his poems. Most of his poems, are on these particular lines itself. He is highly regarded for his realistic depictions of rural life and his command of American colloquial speech. His work frequently employed settings from rural life in New England in the early 20th century and using them to examine complex social and philosophical themes. Right? A popular and often quoted poet. Or Frost is very much quoted by the people. He was honored, and remember, he was honored 4 times with the most highest and most honorary award, the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. His poem, which you all have read, all of you have read, A Road Not Taken. Yes, a beautiful poem talking about careers, talking about making choices in life through a very simple poem about, describing through giving an example of a forest. When you walk in the forest and you come on a fork, how do you react? And that he explains about our life's choices. So this Road Not Taken, written by Frost, Mending Wall. I'm sure many of you have not read this, but I have read this poem in my school days. It's also a beautiful poem about how we erect fences in our we are throwing people out of our house and segregating ourselves from the others. Another very beautiful poem, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening, which you all have read in your junior classes. A very beautiful poem when the poet says, I sit on a horseback and I go into the forest and I knock, you see a house where nobody is there, I go and knock on that lonely house. So, he always went, his poems are always around the nature, the woods, and all that. Birches is also about the trees, the birch tall trees which were found around his house, are some of his most famous poems. You can understand now that what kind of a poet Frost is, and I'm sure you will start appreciating his theories and his philosophies. Yes, a deeper insight into the poem. Before we reach to the poem, it's very, very important, children, as I said in the beginning of my class, that you should have that feeling, you should have that likeness of mind with the poet. So, in his childhood days and later even in his adult life, Robert Frost had gone through a lot of trials and tribulations, not in a small measure. I mean, he had a lot of difficulties in his life, and the poetry was not fetching him enough money in his early days. So to make both ends meet, he had to resort to farming and poultry. And the hard times that he faced as a farmer, scarred his mind and shaped his conscience. He became a humanist and a pro-poor liberal thinker. That is the reason the poem which he is going to talk up to us now, through his poem, he is going to tell about the city dwellers and the village dwellers, right? This poem has glimpses of the ordeal he himself faced in raising some income from his farm. And the celebrated poet, the winner of Wealthy America's top literary awards, has no love. This you must understand. He has no love for blind urbanization that marches inexorably, swallowing a farm. We are actually, he had a feeling, that he had a strong feeling, and he felt that the city dwellers are going to very soon take over the villagers. Take over the villagers, they're going to take over the land, and our villages are going to disappear. I showed you the Indian scene, but this was also the scene in England in those times. Yes, he was very sure that very soon the villagers are going to be taken over by the city dwellers. And I also wanted to add on here, children, that he really appreciated his approach. And the poems have always been very, very realistic. And Robert Frost, of course, a person who loves nature, is always a very compassionate person, very kindly. And he railed against the exploitation of the capitalist system under which he grew and flourished. Although written more than a century ago, that's why I use the word universal theme. The same apathy to the plight of the toiler of the soil still roils around the modern day world. You'll find this is still prevalent even today in the modern day world, right? The same machinations of the land mafia is so forcefully derided still rules the roost in almost all countries of the world. So sad, while millions read his poems with relish, few shed a drop of tear for the toiling, deprived, and voiceless masses that the poet passionately pleaded for. Yes, I use the word here, pleaded. He has requested. Even in the poem, you'll find he's pleading for these farmers. But very sad to say that even today in our country, the farmers are committing suicide. The farmers are not able to live a decent life. This is what Frost is trying to bring. And way back, he had written this a century ago, but very much relevant even today, right? So what is the poem talking about? The poem, particularly now we will talk about these areas. He is exposing the show of empathy that city dwellers have for their, fellow men. He is talking about the selfish motives of the businessmen. He's showing the refreshing innocence of the rural folk and the faith he has in humanity, because at the end of the poem, he ends on a positive note, not cursing the people, but on a positive note. I hope, and he hopes that he nurses a telling comment on the civilized behavior of the rich. There is a sarcastic remark you will find here now and then when he talks about the city dwellers. You'll find here, children, that before I come to the poem here, I'll give a quick reading to the poem here, or rather only to the first part of the poem. And but I would like to make things very clear here that Robert Frost knew that our cities are growing beyond the boundaries, and the farmers are becoming poorer. All the wealth in the cities and the diminishing wealth of our villages, was something which he said is significant to note. And this was something which really upset Frost. He was very much pained, and he has expressed this, through this poem. Also, he talks about his love for nature and how the cities have encroached upon, on our villages, and the rude behavior of the city dwellers towards the farmers, how the farmers are unhappy and living a discontented life. So the poem is an overview. If you ask me in one sentence, it is an overview of the way the villagers today are getting completely obliterated, by the city dwellers. This is, if you ask me in one line, this is how I would explain it, right? And of course, there are many contrasts which are built in the poem. The contrast is between, number one, the basic contrast is between the people of the city and the people of the village. Number two, between the affluent and the needy, between the sophistication and the unrefined simplicity. They're not refined. Village people are not refined. And most important, the insensitive behavior of the city dwellers is contrasted with the sensitivity of the farmers. And also, he is continuously telling us in the poem the careless attitude of these city dwellers towards the people of the villagers. And the problem here is that these city dwellers cannot identify themselves with the village dwellers. This is their problem, right? So I will now quickly read only the first part, children, because the poem is a little lengthy. So because I'll only take up the first part of the poem, that is from the little old house till keeping from us. uh, Quickly, I'll read with you so that you read with me, and you can have the feel of the poem, and all this which I have been telling you, you will also get a feel. The little old house was out with a little new shed in front at the edge of the road where the traffic sped, a roadside stand that too pathetically pled. It would never be fair to say for a dole of bread, but for some of the money, the cash, whose flow supports the flower of the cities from sinking and withering faint. The polished traffic passed with the mind ahead, or if ever aside a moment, then out of sorts at having the landscape marred with the artless paint of signs that with N turned wrong and S turned wrong offered for sale wild berries in wooden quarts, or crook-necked golden squash with silver warts, or beauty rest in a beautiful mountain scene. You have the money, but if you want to be mean, if you want to be mean, so much so, why keep your money? He gets crossed here, he gets upset here. So this crossly and go along. The hurt of the scenery wouldn't be my risk complaint so much as the trusting sorrow of what is unsaid. Here, far from the city, we make our roadside stand and ask for some city money to feel in hand, to try if it will not make our being expand and give us the life of the moving pictures that the party in power is said to be keeping from us. You can see how, a farmer is talking to a city dweller, right? So I will begin with the first three lines, children. Come to the first three lines, take a pencil in your hand and mark that. I'm going to talk about, sorry, the first four lines, right? I'll move to the next slide now. Yes, the next slide is, you can see the lines here. The little old house was out with a new little shed in front of the edge. Just a minute, children. I'll just, yeah. With a little new shed in front at the edge of the road where the traffic sped, a roadside stand that too pathetically pled. Now, first of all, with this very small meanings here, I mean, very simple words, but yet I have written the meanings here for you. Out with this, out with here is extended. Traffic refers to the vehicles which are speeding past. They are in a great haste. The people, the city dwellers, pass by the roads, pass by their streets. They are in a great haste. Haste means in a hurry. In these lines, the poet is telling us, is describing the shed of the shed is what? They have opened a shop outside their homes, and the shed extends on to the road, very close to the road, to facilitate the traffic, the passers by who are speeding in their long cars, without stopping, without halting. They have extended the shed out and they have displayed their items. They have displayed their vegetables which they have grown in the backyard. They have displayed other things, the fruits which they have grown fresh from the garden, and they have kept it in the shed outside so that people who pass by can stop and buy from them, right? So he's describing the shed which has been put up on the highway by the family. It is whatever they have displayed in their shed, is there, is the produce which has come from their garden, from their farmhouse, right? So here he's talking about, he's building a contrast here, the contrast of the speeding vehicles with the fanciful cars, you can call it as, with the crude stand. The stand which they have put up out is a very crude one, is a very simple one, is a one which has not, which doesn't have decorations there. You can see, children, when you go to a roadside stand, he just displays things without any decoration. But when you go to a mall, it may be very simple thing, but it would be displayed with such great art that we are tempted to buy it, right? And we don't get tempted to buy from these roadside stands because we feel we feel that they are not up to the mark, or that is something which is not up to my standard, right? So he's contrasting here. The contrast is between the fancy cars and the crude stand which he has displayed. Here he's imploring. Imploring is what? Requesting, pleading. I use other words for the word pled. Pled is here short formed for pleading, right? The word he has used here is to make it rhyme with shed, sped, and pled. So pled is imploring, requesting the people. Pathetically, he's requesting. Very, very sadly. Because, you know, it's really very sad when somebody is begging, please buy my things, you know. So it's, I mean, they don't say it so very openly, but their faces speak volumes, children, that they are imploring the people, they are pleading the people, purchase our things. At the same time, Frost, in the next lines, you'll find he makes it very, very clear that they are not asking in charity. They are not asking for charity. Rather, they are just seeking a patronage. They are seeking a patronage from these city dwellers by asking them to just buy their wealth. What is their wealth? Their wealth is a produce from the garden outside. I hope these lines are clear. So we will quickly do the questions side by side so that you will you'll be able to understand the lines. If I ask, why was the little old house extended towards the road? As I said in my answer, to make a living out of the city money. He also wants to enjoy. He also wants that the money which is there with the city dwellers to flow into his pocket also, right? To attract the rich city men by extending the stand closer to the road to facilitate them, right? Why is the stand's existence said to be pathetic? I've given some examples to you regarding the malls and the roadside stand, but the answer here is just see, the roadside stand's sole expectation is the flow of the city money into their hands. But their expectations are never fulfilled, children, as the rich men are not considerate about them. As I told you, we never stop and buy from the roadside stand. Hence, a pathetic existence for the roadside stand. Now, I can give you another example here, children, that the roadside people, you know, are very shabby in their appearance because they don't have money to live a good living. They cannot wear good clothes. They cannot speak a good language. They cannot put their things in good containers or decorative containers. They are in a very simple way. They have put it out there. But that is a genuine thing. Yet the people are not attracted and they just run past them. They even not even take a look at them, right? So shall I move to the next line? I'm sure these lines are clear to you. Yes, I'm sure you are. And these answers, very simple. I'm sure you'll be able to take it up now. Next. Next lines are, it would not be fair. I'll just read the lines here. It would not be fair to say for a dole of bread, but for some of the city money, the cash whose flow supports the flower of cities from sinking and withering fate. As I told in my last line also, I said the poet may be imploring here. The poet is telling that they are imploring, they are requesting. But in the very next line, he has made it very clear here, children. He says it would not be fair to say for a dole of bread. That is, these people are not asking for a piece of bread. They have enough. They have enough to survive. What they want is the money to flow into their hands. They just want, I mean, it would be wrong to say that they are begging for a piece of bread. They are begging for their food. No, they don't beg for food. They are begging for some money, which is there entirely being controlled by the city dwellers to flow into their hands. And that is the reason very soon in the very next line, you know, Frost makes it very clear that they are not asking for charity. They are just seeking the patronage of the city dwellers so that they can they should buy something and money should flow into their hands. Now, I'll make one more thing clear here, children, that these people, even today they survive on a barter system. You know what is a barter system? That is, in some long time back, this is how they used to live. If somebody is going is cultivating rice in the fields, they would give rice and take wheat in return. If somebody is growing some particular crop, they would give that and take something. So this is how they were surviving. So money was never required by them, right? Because they were getting everything or whatever was necessary. But money is still required, children. We cannot survive everything every time and for everything on a barter system. Still, we need money. So this is the money which they are asking for their benefit, for their requirement. Dole here is a piece, and city money is referred to the big amount of money, city money, because it's all the money is found in the cities only, right? Now, here you must know what is this flower referred to here. Flower is very, very important here. The image of a flower refers to money, children, here, right? The poet himself being a farmer, being connected and bonded with the soil, because he was a farmer. So for him, connecting the money to the word flower was quite natural. Now, I'm sure you must be finding it a little difficult to understand that. I'll give you a little more example on this. See, flower, he's referring to the money. Why money? Because the poet himself is a farmer, and for him, his flowers, his produce, flower, in other words, if I say, is the produce of the fields. That is his money. So the money, he's talking about the money of the cities. So flower of cities refers to the money of the city people. And the product of this money is a product of the industrial product. It's an industrial product, right? But for a farmer, the flower is his product. That is his produce, right? And he needs that money to sustain, that money which is sustaining the city dwellers. He also needs that money, that flower, to sustain his life. And in a very simple image, he has described money as a flower. Now, very legitimately, he's saying here that even the village dwellers, they want to earn their piece of their bread. They want to earn their piece of pie by selling what they have produced in the fields. They want to earn it through the form of the money. They also want some money to flow into their hands, right? Yes. Now, if I give you an example here, one more example I give you here. He also wanted that the flowers, if I give another example here, the flower of the cities from sinking and withering faint. If I come to this particular line and give you a word by word meaning here, is that the money which is flowing in the cities, and because there's a lot of money in the cities, that is the reason our cities are not sinking, are not getting destroyed, they're not withering, they are not fainted. But because that money is not flowing into the villages, that is, or the city, for the village dwellers, that is the reason, children, that they have started fainting, or rather they have been fainting, they have sunk, they have withered, they have fallen down. That is the reason our farmers are dying. That is the reason our farmers are committing suicide, right? So he wants that cash which is running the cities, which is keeping the cities above from sinking, from withering, that money to flow into their hands as well. I hope now it is very, very clear, all of you. So I will quickly take up the questions here also. Why is it unfair to say that these people are begging for a dole of bread? I've already given the answer, but the points you can note down here. One may think that the poor people at the roadside stand are beggars. No, children, they are not beggars, not at any cost. Unlike the beggars who beg unconditionally, shamelessly, and sometimes unreasonably also, the people of the roadside stand, they have put up their stand there and they are selling their produce there. They are selling whatever they have toiled hard to produce, they are selling it out there, right? It is something to share, and a noble reason behind their begging. They are not asking for money to just flow into their hands. They are begging to the people to buy something from them, right? So it is not just one sided, it's not just begging, it's saying you buy our produce. What do the poor people really expect from the rich? The poor people expect a small share of the money from the rich people. See, if you write here as they expect the people to buy, no, we're not talking about that here. We're talking about here is a small share of the money, because that is the theme of the poem. How do the poor people look at the city money? For the poor people, or at the roadside stand, money is very essential for growth and survival, because it boosts the growth of the city and the city people. They see that the city people are growing day by day because there is plentiful of money. And these people are only working on the fields. So for them, they feel for their daily necessary things, they also need for their growth. Most important, not survival only, for their growth, they also need the money. And what is the flower of the cities? The main question here. Now, it is the prosperity. Growth is the flower of the cities. As the flower is the crowning glory of a plant, that is the beauty of the plant, growth becomes the flower of the city. Money becomes the flower of the city. And the city men, rich enough to be insensitive to the sufferers, pass by in their cars while passing by the roadside stand. They grow angry and they speed. Why do they grow angry? We will discuss in the next line, not here, right? And they even curse the poor lot. Why do they curse the poor lot? That we will read in the next lines, right? But yes, they curse the poor lot. They are angry with these poor people. And does it not happen, children, that many times when we see these people, we say, oh, see that they are actually living this kind of a life. They are so poorly and shabbily dressed because they want that somebody will throw some money at them. No, children, these farmers have a very upright character. They never beg for anything from somebody, because they know that they are the ones who are feeding the world. They are the ones who are coming out with this produce, and they are the ones who are the givers. They are not the takers. I think that, and I feel also that I have very elaborately built up the poem and talked about the pathetic condition of the villagers and what they want and why they want it. So I'm sure you have been able to understand the poem. And I want you all children to please read the poem and come, so that you'll be able to understand the poem better. And poetry is not about line by line understanding, children. You have to have a fair and a good idea about the whole poem before you are able to understand. So please, I request all of you to read the poem and come and revise whatever I have already done. I'm sure you have noted down these questions also, or you have taken, if not noted down, you must have taken a screenshot. Read the answers also. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. And there's one more thing I wanted to tell you, children, here was that many of you have been asking me, ma'am, please send the question answers. Now, I will not be able to send the question answers to you. I'm showing you my PPT here. You can take a screenshot and write the answers and maintain your notebook. So please don't ask for the PPT here from me. What you can do is that take a screenshot and start maintaining your notebook. That's all for today, children. And I hope you'll be keeping good health, taking care of yourself, staying indoors, reading your lessons, doing your work. And I look forward to you all in my next class. Thank you so much.